Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. Today we are continuing with our Tea Time interview series, and I am so happy to introduce you all to Morgan James. Morgan, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And to kick it off, let's talk about our tea. I found out that Morgan is a tea fan.
I am. Well, I like a little tea with my honey, really is how I drink my tea. So my husband jokes, he's like, wow, are you going to put any tea in there? I'm drinking rooibos candied almond. So it's basically dessert.
Yeah, that's basically dessert.
What are you drinking?
This is a milk oolong today. First sip. Oh, yeah. It's gorgeous.
It's so good.
Gorgeous.
So good. We're a big coffee and tea house.
Ooh, both?
Oh yeah.
Do you have is there a clear winner between the two?
Probably coffee. My husband is like a major espresso aficionado, and we have every fancy device you could possibly get your hands on at our house for making various beverages. So, and now that we're home all the time, it's nice that we actually can enjoy the things in our kitchen.
That's very true.
Yeah.
What's your favorite device for making tea?
Well, I have this very bougie Breville Tea Maker. I always wanted it, and I was like, I really don't need that. A suitable cup of tea can be made very easily without a device. But yeah, this device, Breville makes great appliances, and so you put your loose tea in it. It heats it. You tell it what kind of tea. You tell it how strong you want it, and then it heats the water to exactly the temperature you should have a certain kind of tea at. You tell them how many servings, and then it dips the tea, lowers the tea into the water, and takes it back out so it doesn't get oversteeped. I know. Everyone that comes over laughs at me, and then they see it in action, and they're like, "I actually need that." So it's pretty cool. I love an intuitive device. I love technology, and I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna add like another question or two now that I know that. That's perfect. Oh man. Oh, that's so cool. We're gonna have a big combo. Okay. Tech question. There it is over there.
Okay.
So I have a ton of questions for you.
Okay.
When I was writing questions, I was like, oh man, this is don't dig too much. Don't go overboard with the questions, but I do have a lot. And then at the end, we even have some questions from our patrons. So
great.
Excited.
Awesome.
All right. So first
Jump in.
Right? Other than tea and coffee, which is very important to start with.
Yeah.
You were born in Boise, right?
I was born in Boise, Idaho. Yeah. Yep.
That's so fun. That's actually not too far from where I was born in Wenatchee, Washington.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So I know in my experience, it was kind of wild to say, I want to have a career performing music coming from a part of the country where that's just hard to imagine in a lot of ways. So what inspired you to pursue a career in music?
Well, when I was about 12, we moved to California, where there were so many more arts programs, coincidentally, not for that, but there just were. And I got involved in choir and theater and speech and debate, and I got totally hooked. And because I was in a place in Northern California where there were great programs and great teachers, I think that really made the path clear. My parents are both artists. My mom's an actress and a poet. My dad was my drama teacher. So I came by it pretty naturally. And of course they were very, very encouraging, but they were also very reticent to, be waving the banners just yet, because they knew how hard a life like that could be.
Yeah.
So they wanted me to be a doctor or a vet, of course, like every parent probably wishes. But they were, once the die was cast and they could see that I was totally hooked, they were incredibly supportive. And so yeah, I think it was the programs and teachers that made me feel like it was possible,
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then I read that you ended up going to Juilliard, and I think I read that you applied pretty early on in your life and then really fought to get your spot there. Can you tell me a little bit about what that process was like, and then also what particularly you studied at Juilliard.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to go to Juilliard freshman year of high school. And everybody kind of looked at me like I was a little like, oh, that's very sweet. But, I didn't have any formal training, so all things considered, I was not really on a strong musical path outside of being in choir and lessons, So everyone was kind of like, oh, it's very hard to get in there, and kind of trying to get my expectations lower. So I applied, my junior year when I was 17 or so, beginning of the senior year. And the process, I don't know if it's still this insane, but the process is for voice and piano and violin, some of the more highly trafficked disciplines. You have to send in a pre-screening tape with arias and songs on it because it's a classical program. And then you have to wait and see if you're invited to audition, which I was. So my dad and I flew out for my first trip to New York City, and I went to the audition, and I, of course, picture like 18-year-old Morgan in like a velvet gown with pearls and absolutely no fashion sense or fear whatsoever, just completely fearless. And then you kind of they put you through the ringer once you're there to see what your aptitude is for language and ear training and theory. And then you wait and see if you sing again, which I was called back to sing again. And then you go home and wait, And I had applied to a lot of other great schools, but my heart was really set on Juilliard. For some reason, I thought this is where I'm supposed to be. And I want to be in New York. I want to be a part of that legacy, that name and those people that went there. And I didn't really know what it was going to be like, So long story short, I got a letter. I got accepted all these other places, but I was waiting for that Juilliard letter, and I got a letter that I was waitlisted.
Okay.
And everybody said, oh, it's such an honor to be waitlisted. Of course, I was devastated because I wanted the big packet, that said I was going to be able to go there. And my parents said, it's not meant to be, and it's okay, and somebody might drop out and leave a spot for you. You never know. I was like, nobody's going to, say no. Nobody's going to not go. And so I started sending them all this supplemental material because, I was even more fearless and stubborn than I am now. And so I was like, they're wrong, just the cockiness of being 18. And I started sending them all this material saying, I need to be there. It's my destiny. And I don't know I'll never know whether they made an extra spot or whether I wore them down or whether someone dropped out. I don't know. I was told by admissions that they just made an extra spot. So that's what I'm going to go with.
That's awesome.
So that's my romantic Juilliard story. And then it was just, then my whole path was, that really felt like my whole direction began,
Now, it's really interesting to me knowing how you sing now and knowing that back then, if you went to Juilliard, it was classical. So I find it fascinating that you got your roots in classical training. Was that really intentional? Did you want to specifically go for classical singing for opera first, or did you always want to go towards more blues, musical theater singing?
I didn't know how to belt. I didn't know that this other voice was inside me. It certainly wasn't premeditated. It was all, the mother, necessity is the mother of invention, and so I came to learn to belt and learn and kind of develop an expertise in these other styles while going down the path. I wanted to go and get a classical music degree the same way a ballerina wants to study ballet, regardless of the other, genres that he or she are going to pursue, because I thought it was the best foundation for a lifelong voice, a lifelong technique, rather than something temporary or something for a season or for a show. I didn't want that. I really wanted that classic training, that music background. I wanted to really, really dig in and have that I thought I could really plant my feet on forever, that foundation.
Do you think
Now,
that foundation has really helped?
oh my gosh, yes. Yes, absolutely. It's essentially the same technique. I sing with the same technique. I sing classically in every single one of my lessons every week. I sing with the same technique that I always have. It's the style, it's the genre that changes. The modifications are in style. They're not in technique. The instrument runs the same, and it's different gears maybe, but you still need gas and oil and all the same things that you need to run the car.
Oh my goodness.
And but I kind of realized pretty quickly that I didn't want to be an opera singer, and I didn't have the capacity or interest to be an opera singer. So then I was in a little bit of a conundrum. I had a conundrum because I wanted to do theater, theater music, and they don't prepare you for that at Juilliard. So there were just many years of trying to figure out where I belonged.
Yeah. I just have to say, you took the words out of my mouth. It was so perfect the way you said, hey, it's the same foundational technique. It's a style that changes. It's like the cherry on top that changes. It's something I tell so many people.
Yeah.
And I also always use the car analogy. It was perfect. Thank you.
Oh, yay. Yay. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you have to put the right kind of gas in the car. And then
Yeah. And I always tell young students, like when I'm trying to get people to take care of their voice, right? I say, we're born with this beautiful Ferrari like in our throat, but it can be driven off the road very easily. You still have to be careful with it, and you have to take great care in order to make it an instrument that will last a lifetime.
Yeah.
So I always get on that vocal health soapbox.
Well, I was going to ask you about that later, but why don't you talk about it now? What do you do to take care of your instrument?
Well, I try to drink a lot of water. I try to get rest, the standard things. I have multiple steamers, and various things that I travel with like that. When I'm on the road, I don't drink alcohol when I'm singing every single night,
Yeah.
I don't eat any dairy. I try to reduce the amount of acids and things that could upset my throat. And I sing every single day. I go to my lessons, I maintain in that way. And I try to really, really keep it in shape.
Who do you currently work with for your lessons?
Derek Rosenblatt is my teacher, and he's been my teacher for 13 years.
Awesome.
And he really, and I had one teacher, Cynthia Hoffman, at Juilliard for 4 years. And then I kind of bounced around trying to find a teacher after college. And I was very mistrustful of teachers and of what is going to be right for the next phase.
Yeah.
And I came to find Derek, and we're just a match made in heaven. And I love him. And he really taught me, I used to say a lot, oh, I can't sing that. Oh, I can't sing that, and I would put these strange limitations, and I never say that anymore. Someone else might sing it better, but I'm not going to say I can't. There's always going to be a way. He has so many tools for me. We have so many tools together as a team so that nothing's impossible,
I love that.
Yeah, he's awesome. And finding the right teacher is just so important, It's like a therapist.
It really is. I've been reading, I always like to read a lot about voice and various vocal research going on, but there are actually hormones that your body releases when you're singing, and these hormones make you essentially trust the people that you're singing with or working with. That's part of why there's this feeling of community that's really strong within choirs, and also why you have that big bond between a voice teacher and a singer develop. Really important.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I had a bad relationship with my teacher at Juilliard, and as a lot of people will say about this particular teacher and about conservatory, I don't think everybody has a great experience at conservatory, and it made me very mistrustful and very insecure. It took this, I came in this fearless, strong, curious person, and I kind of left Juilliard very broken. And it took a long time to mend that, and mend that relationship, the teacher-student relationship, and mend the relationship with my own voice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, there's construction. That's lovely. You're in New York. You can hear construction every day.
Every day. I mean,
yeah, it took a long time for me to accept my classical voice and like it. I just hated that voice because I was just told so many times at school that I was just not good enough, and so that's been a great part of getting older. Is I'm like, I walk away from my lessons and I feel pride again. I feel joy. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's super awesome, man. What a fantastic voice teacher to be able to help you come back from that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
really cool. Let's see. So can you talk a little bit about that transition from classical training to musical theater? And how did, especially I have a lot of questions actually about musical theater and some of the roles in there. So we might dive into a little bit like of the Addams Family, if you want to talk a little bit about
sure.
Day. So that direction, maybe?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever you want.
So what was the impetus to go into musical theater after studying opera?
Well, I always loved musical theater. I mean, that was really, if truth be told, even when I went to school, I knew deep down I wasn't going to be an opera singer. I always wanted to go and be the next Barbara Cook, or, be following the footsteps of Audra McDonald, or Judy Kuhn, or Marin Mazzie, or Rebecca Luker. And I loved those women, those classic women.
Yeah.
And so I was always a musical theater nerd. But when I graduated from school, all of a sudden we were in a different era of musical theater, and the musical theater soprano was gone. It was not only not just not popular, but there was not, outside of Phantom of the Opera, which is its own beast. There were no classic golden age musicals on Broadway. Nobody was getting those roles. It wasn't popular. And so I was like, okay, I want to be in musical theater, but there's no place for me. So it was very strange, very strange. But so I went into that process of building a book and getting an agent and learning how to audition, because Juilliard didn't prepare me to audition for musical theater. So I had to totally find that on my own and through classes and people, and, Yeah.
So how did you end up in the Addams Family? That was your first big Broadway show, right?
That was my first Broadway show, but that was 10 years after moving to New York. So, I mean, I did a lot of regional theater, and I I was a waitress and a babysitter and a bartender and a tutor. And I spent many, many years unemployed, auditioning and for years, and going through different ups and downs, and, oh, this will be the break. Oh, that'll be the break. I had so many near misses that were going to be, coulda, woulda, shoulda, And so it doesn't, there's a huge gap in there where I'm doing regional theater and learning how to be a leading lady, and doing summer stock, and getting my card, and getting, doing a lot in between that. And that's when I met Mary Mitchell Campbell, who is the music director of the Addams Family. I met her in a show out of town. And when they were doing workshops, I learned pretty quickly that workshops were kind of the way in, so that you needed to be on the radar of the composers that were making current shows.
Yeah.
So she introduced me to Andrew Lippa and brought me in for that first workshop. And then I was involved from the beginning for Addams Family.
'Cause finding Wonderland is taking time to see the child within who has always been there, smiling back at me. And when I close my eyes, I just remember, and I keep on finding Wonderland.
Awesome. Super
Is that
awesome.
the loudest thing you've ever heard?
I've heard opera singers that were louder, but it's
No.
it's pretty loud.
I know. I don't know what to do. They're like hammering outside. Oh, well.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. With Wednesday in particular, that I've worked with people on that role before, and I'm really curious. What's your favorite song? Which one's the most difficult? Is there a moment in the role that you feel like was ever just really hard to get, or like one of the most liberating moments? Do you have any insight into that role?
I mean, being an understudy is very, very hard because it never really feels like yours. It never really is yours. You're always being thrown on with short notice, and you don't feel quite prepared. You being an understudy, I've done it twice. Is that true? Yes, I've done it twice, and it's really hard because so it's a blur. Every time I went on was kind of a blur. I didn't really have time to settle into it. Of course, before we went into production, I auditioned for rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds of callbacks to try to get the role myself, you know? And without any Broadway credits, you know, it was unlikely that I was going to get the role. And it was a great experience understudying, you know, you learn a lot, but it's always a little bit of a blur. You know, you never really settle into the comfort of a role when you're the understudy. That being said, it was obviously exciting to be on stage with BB and Nathan, and they're both so incredible. That cast was incredible, and they're both so kind and in their different ways, and funny and great. I learned so much from watching both of them, you know, and being around them. So, I mean, Pulled is really hard to sing, and it's really high, and then your adrenaline from being thrown on last minute is quite an experience, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a rush.
A total rush, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a few times when I was called in to sing Pamina last moment. I would already been singing it in Dresden in Germany at that point, but essentially in the house, if there was a Pamina that got sick, because they're running Magic Flute a lot. Yeah, it was interesting to meet my Tamino on stage in costume for the first time and be singing duets, and just, it was fascinating.
It's crazy. It's totally crazy. Yeah, you never feel quite ready for that. You know, it's a crazy experience.
It's very exciting. I thought it was very different from just having the role regularly. Very, very different.
Very different. Yes.
Yeah, but fun. It almost felt like you were really truly in some sort of fantasy, not one that you'd been producing all along, but you just stepped into it and were part of it without necessarily knowing what was about to happen around you.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
You know, let's see. So after doing some musical theater for a while, you ended up transitioning again to really having a solo career in R&B soul music. And I'm curious what spawned that transition. You have so many transitions in your life.
I know.
It's really fascinating. So what made you go that direction?
Well, you know, when I was in the Addams Family was the first time that I was in New York. I wasn't bouncing all around. I didn't have 25 day jobs. You know, I wasn't leaving town to do shows. And it was the first time I thought, well, you know, maybe I could do a gig in New York. And I'll start a band. So I pulled together some musicians and put together some arrangements of covers. Of course, I didn't really write music then yet. And so I started a band, and I decided to do my first solo show, which most people want to do at some point when they're in New York. And I did this show at Le Poisson Rouge, and everybody was kind of like, we don't know what that was, but keep doing that. That was like kind of the takeaway was you have something special. And I didn't quite know what it was. I invited some managers and some kind of label types I had in my mind that I wanted to be signed to a label. I didn't really know what that meant, you know, but I don't know. And so I just started kind of arranging songs and putting my spin on covers and stuff. And that's when I arranged Call My Name, which became like my big song at Epic Records and one of my signature songs. And that's when I arranged a bunch of songs and started dipping my toe into that water. And then after that, then I got Wonderland right after. So I left Addams Family and did Wonderland. And I kept doing shows, you know, solo shows along the way. I kept kind of building that sound, the sound that I kind of have now. And then I did Godspell. And while I was doing Godspell, I was doing workshops for I was doing workshops for Motown.
Wow.
And that's when I met Mr. Gordy. And that's when really my life took a huge turn and a huge change was when Mr. Gordy took me under his wing. And that's when, I had auditioned for this is now 4 years through on the path of having a solo career or what that I wanted, doing solo shows. And I auditioned for every single label. I had different managers get me meetings with labels, every label in New York, a couple labels in LA, and all of them said no. All of them turned me down. And it wasn't until I met Mr. Gordy and he introduced me to Doug Morris at Sony and essentially got me a record deal at one of the same labels that had denied me already. That's the thing about rejection is like you can go to the same building, a different door, and somebody will let you in. You never know. I always tell people, don't give up. Like just because you got to know at this door, another door might open, So yeah, it was a huge transition. It was a total surprise, Yes, I'd been working for it and I did want it, but I didn't. I was signed as a voice. Like most people are signed because they have songs or they have an album or they have an established sound, but I was just signed as a voice.
Home for the free, somebody lied. They can buy my phone, come around my home. They'd only see you and me making love. I love you so much.
Oh, that's super awesome. That's also a great message to people to go look for another door.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's that person, that day, that mood. And if you really, I'm very, like I've said, I'm stubborn, but I'm very tenacious. Is that the right?
Yeah, tenacious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Squeaky wheel James, they call me.
I love it. Oh, that's awesome. Well, okay. So let's talk about albums. You've released a lot of albums.
Yes.
And I'm curious, which is your favorite?
Oh, they're all your children. It's hard to pick, they all have, I love this last one that I made. It was such a labor of love to me. I made an album the way I always wanted to make it, to analog tape and I love that album. But I love my first album, Hunter, because I'd never made an album before and I learned so much and it was, I was still on Epic. So they spent a ton of money and, I got that full experience. Every single album is so special because if you're doing it right, you're pouring everything into it, every dollar and every minute you have. And so, yeah, they're all just so special to me,
Yeah. Yes. I'm curious, which recording experience was the best? You mentioned this recent one, being able to do that analog. Was that your favorite recording experience, or was there one where it just was really comfortable, or where you had all the bells and whistles?
This last one, I was the most me. I was so comfortable. I was so confident in what I could do and who I was and what I wanted to make. So I think that this last experience was we were in Memphis. And we had the dream band and we didn't have to worry about the money and who was going to pay for this and that. And we didn't have to argue about what was going to happen creatively. We were just all on the same page. And that's such a rare experience.
Yeah.
And, recording albums like the way I envision, like Aretha used to record them, Aretha was, and all my favorite singers, I wanted to make an album like that. It's fun to make an album in a booth, and a lot of people do a lot of fixing on the post-production side. And I've never really been into that. So this just felt like I wanted people to put on the record and say, that sounds like a gig, because it essentially is a live gig. There's no fixes, there's no overdubs, and it's the way I really sound, and I love that. Awesome. Yeah. I love that experience. Rare. Yeah, nowadays it's really rare. And it's funny because the further I go down the path, the more I go in that direction. The more I reject what I hear on the radio and go further down the other way,
Yeah. And that actually answered another question I had, which was, who does the production? It kind of answers that. Do you have somebody who is adding a few things at the end, finding a reverb that really matches everyone?
I mean, Doug, my husband, Doug, and I are partners in everything we make, and we write almost all my music together. And he produced all three of my last studio albums. And
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's obviously we're so lucky that, I mean, we already know what the other person wants. And so that he does all the production and tech side of things. And, for something like the White Album that I did, he also played all the instruments and he mixed it and he mastered it. So we're a total team.
Wow.
And it's really great. It's really fun that I don't have to explain myself. When I'm in a situation that he's not there, I forget the shorthand and how much time that saves and how much creative time it saves in my brain. The shorthand is pretty amazing.
So what are all of these guitars on your wall?
Oh my God, who knows? I couldn't even tell you. I mean, he likes to joke that I really know nothing about any of them, but yeah, he has, I think he has like 19 guitars, 2 ukuleles, 2 basses, a pedal steel, a lap steel. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm, I got him the lap steel for Christmas, and I went into the guitar store and I was like, well, does he want this? And he's like, I mean, yeah, you can never have enough guitars. The guitar guy said this. And I was like, well, I mean, I can never have enough dresses or shoes or dogs, so I guess I understand.
Do you guys have dogs?
We have 2 dogs. Yeah.
2 dogs?
They're sleeping right here next to me. Cavalier King Charles Spaniels. Do you want to see one? Come here, Uni.
Yes.
Let me get one. She's sleeping beauty right now. Come here, Uni. So let's say hi to the lady.
Hello. Oh my goodness.
I know.
Cute face.
Could you just die? She's just too much.
She's just
they go on
to snuggle.
I know. They go on tour with us. They go everywhere with us.
Oh my goodness. You can actually take them with you.
Yeah, we take them everywhere.
Man, that was like one of the hardest things about traveling and singing opera is that I really wanted to settle down and have a dog. We still haven't gotten a dog. We'll get a dog sometime soon, I hope.
Yeah.
But that was like one of the hardest things is
I know.
Traveling with the dog. Wow. So you have to, do you ever write into contracts, must include pet accommodations?
No, I just take them everywhere. I sneak them. They're quiet. I just show up. I what's that? Ask for forgiveness, not for permission. I just take them everywhere. And usually people are really happy they're there. People love dogs. They make everything better.
Yeah.
So and then when in doubt, I just put them in their bags and they're silent and nobody even knows they're there. I've gone to like fancy dinners and parties and they're just in my bag because I'm that lady. Yeah, it's the best.
That's awesome. Aw, dogs. And it was dresses and shoes.
Dresses, vintage dresses, shoes. That's how I feel the same way about those that Doug feels about guitars.
That's perfect.
Yeah, we have an equal understanding of both of those things.
All right. Have you ever, sorry, this is totally off singing subject, but have you ever looked at Remix Shoes?
What's that?
They're a vintage shoe company. They specifically make lots of shoes for swing dancing too. So they're based in LA, but they're really comfortable vintage shoes. And I love them.
Okay, I'm going to look that up.
They're super fantastic.
Okay, good. I'm going to look that up.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Okay. Do you have a favorite microphone?
Yes, I like to sing live. I like to sing on the Neumann KMS 105, the condenser mic. No, the dynamic. I have one of each, but yeah, the Neumann KMS 105. I love. I love that. And in the studio, I love this Sony mic that my engineer in Memphis had. I can never remember what it's called, but it's a vintage Sony mic. Yeah. It's hard because I self-compress. And so on stage, I don't want any compression or limiting. And most engineers, unless you're traveling with an engineer, it's really hard to get somebody to not micromanage me on stage.
Yes.
So it's hard to find the right, mic for live singing. But I really like that Neumann, as long as there's somebody there that really kind of knows it well. Because, it's a difficult mic to mix, but I do love it. It's very crisp. I love to hear all the detail, on the high end.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is an SM7, which I do a lot of recordings at home into. So it's a great, standard mic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And lots of people know how to work with it too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Let's see. So about a couple of albums. Um, I was really intrigued. You released, I think it's your second cover album. It was called Blue, and you released it on the 45th anniversary of Joni Mitchell's album, which is by the same name, right? Am I getting that all right? Okay. Um, so I love Joni Mitchell, and I'm really curious what about her caught your attention, where that love for her came from, and I want to know if you have a favorite song by her too.
My mom brought me up on Joni Mitchell, so I've kind of known Joni Mitchell's music since I was probably as young as I can remember, and I was learning a lot of these albums when I was young. Even before my love of soul music, really, you know, I kind of was brought up on the music of the 60s and 70s, and particularly Joni. So I've always loved her. I grew up mimicking her and learning all her music. And do I have a favorite Joni? There's so many. I mean, I love A Case of You, and I love River, and I love all of the album Court and Spark, and I love Ludwig's Tune, which is on oh God, which album is that on? Not Ladies of the Canyon. For the Roses, For the Roses. So I love those first 6 Joni albums like immensely. They're flawless, you know.
Songs are like tattoos. You know I've been to sea before. Crown and anchor me, or let me sail away. Hey Blue, here is a song for you, ink on a pen.
You know,
I like the way she's always playing with her voice, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious if that was something that inspired you to really be playful.
Oh, you know, I've never thought about it. Probably, I don't know. You know, I love people that I never thought of her as playful. It's funny, but I guess she is. You know, I really love people that are prolific, that just keep making things. Like Paul Simon and Joni are 2 people like that they just keep making things. You know, they don't wait for the exact perfect moment. They just keep creating and writing and painting, and I'm really inspired by that.
Yeah.
By that your job every day is to get up and create. You know, it's not to wait for the exact perfect divine inspiration per se, but it's just to create and put it out there and throw it out into the world. Of course, everything she made was perfect and flawless, and same with Paul, but
Oh, that's cool. That's a really good message too. Love it. Love it. Do you ever find it intimidating or daunting to cover a song that was released by like one of these great artists?
you know, I don't. Because I feel I'm never trying to do what they did. I'm only trying to do what I did, what I can do. And I'm always going to, I'm such a slave to the melody and the lyrics, and being authentically true to that. I don't want to cover something to completely take it apart and turn it into something else. I've grown to really hate that. You know, I really try to, people always say, oh, I can't wait to see what you do with this song or that song. And I hope that I would never want someone to listen to something and go, well, it's unrecognizable now. You know, it's a classic song for a reason. And I just want to step inside of it, you know, and a great song can be covered over and over and over, and still you can find something new about it. And so I don't feel intimidated because I'm not trying to be the person. I'm not trying to beat their version. I'm just trying to be myself. And I always try to think of covering songs like, what would Aretha do? You know how Aretha kind of famously, everything she would cover, she would make better than the original, you know? And I always think, I would love to see what it was like for her to get a song someone else had recorded and just do her Aretha thing on it, you know? And she always instinctively knows what to do, you know? She's such an incredible interpreter of music. And so I think of it that way, you know,
that's cool.
It's just trying to do my best version of it, you know?
Yeah. And that's part of why you are so authentic, I think. It's what your goal is.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is my goal for sure.
I love it. Really, seriously, it's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see, a couple other questions here. Ooh, a whole bunch there. Which one of these do we want to toss in first? There's kind of they're not as nice timeline after this, I feel. I would love to know actually if you have any pre-performance routines or rituals, since we talked about vocal health. Is there anything?
I don't really. No, it's like I'm not really superstitious. And so I don't have anything I have to do or have to sing or warm up. I mean, my warm up kind of depends on how much I've been singing that week.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm singing every night, my warm up will be really, really light.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do my hair and my face and, and kind of spend that time alone getting beautifying as we have to do. And I spend my time preparing what I'm going to, what I wear and what I look like on stage has become such a, you know what they say about like, people sit down at a dinner table and they eat with their eyes first,
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to create, when I walk on stage before I've said anything, I want to look and I want the band to look like what they're going to hear. And I want people to be transported to that world. So I spend a lot of time thinking about that, about creating a full sensory experience for people who come to see me live.
Yeah. And that's why you need a lot of dresses. It's
really, really required. Well, I know. And it's like in the pandemic, like I have not stopped collecting vintage clothing, even though I have nowhere to wear it, but yeah, but the vintage addiction is real.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, no, people ask me all the time if I have pre-show rituals, and I don't really. Sometimes, because sometimes I'm not afforded the luxury of a ritual, it's like, I'm not touring at a high luxury level of touring. Mm-hmm. Let's be real. I'm touring, I'm still hauling my own gear, and we don't travel with a crew, and we're in a car and jam-packed. Like, sometimes I have a big fancy bus and sometimes I don't. So sometimes I'm rolling into sound check right before it starts, or rolling up to a gig right before it starts, and I'm not afforded the luxury of a ritual. So you have to be adaptable,
Yeah. That's for sure. And, you touched on pandemic. I'm really curious how that's affected you over this last year.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I've learned so much this year, and I've been so much luckier than most people, or than a lot of artists that I know. I mean, Doug and I are quarantined together and have been, obviously, since March. Mm-hmm. So we're able to still make music. I don't know what I would have done if I wasn't able to still make music. We're able to still write and make videos and do shows. We do shows every single week on Stage It or on my channel. And
how can people find that?
Oh, yes. Stageit.com and then Morgan James online. Just search for me. I do a show every single week. And we started doing those in March. We started doing daily videos in March. And so, yeah, we remained really creative. And when I go to my lessons, and my teacher's like, you're in great shape, and I think a lot of people put their instrument aside during the pandemic for lots of different reasons. And I think that then they're having to kind of get back into the habit of singing every day. So, of course, I haven't been able to tour, and it's been totally bizarre. And I've never spent this much time at home. It's a little weird. I'm going out of my skin because I miss traveling, and I miss seeing people and seeing a different place every day, and I love meeting people in every town. I love singing live. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that. But all things considered, the fact that I've been able to still make a living as a musician all year is pretty lucky.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I love how you've just expanded online. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've been trying. So but I can't do that without loyal, people tuning in. So it's really, I say this every night on stage, but I can't do it without them, without, people out there that want to listen, that want to show up,
Yeah.
And I'm really, really indebted to audiences and people who still love music and need it and show up.
I mean, if anything, I think that people need music and what you do more right now than ever before.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when people are touring again, I mean, how wonderful will that be to be in a room full of people again? It's like gives me the chills to think about, and so many things that I took for granted before or that annoyed me before. Now I think of them and I even want the annoying things back,
The candy wrapper while you're singing, go for it.
Right. But the annoyances of touring, that touring is a tough life,
Yeah.
but I'm going to have such a different perspective on it now, having had to sit it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Touring is a tough life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I'm kind of curious what you think the toughest part of touring is.
The toughest part is at this point for me is that it's still very grassroots, right? And it's still a lot of work for Doug and for me and for the band. We're still kind of, loading the car and it's kind of a never ending day. It's like we drive or fly to a venue, right? And then we check into the hotel and then the hotel room's not ready. And then we bob around and get something to eat. And then we check in and we haul all our bags and then we do a load in and that's an hour. And then I do a sound check and that's an hour. And then I do a pre-show meet and greet and then I get ready and then I do a show and then I do a post-show meet and greet and then I pack up and it's a long day, and it's not just the hour I'm on stage, it's the hour on stage is the easy part. That's the fun part. It's all the rest, So I think that I'm so lucky that I can tour and that people will still show up, but I'm not a stadium artist with teams of people handling everything, It's still Doug and me walking the dogs and packing up the car and, getting to the next place. So it's still a pretty exhausting kind of day.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just wears on your body and wears on your voice. The amount of talking, like just the meet and greets alone or the interviews or different things throughout the day in addition to my show. It's all the stuff that I have to do in addition to the show and selling merch and packing up the merch. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's me packing up the merch, it's us doing everything, and that's how it is when you start a business, it's you doing every single part of the business. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
But it's exhausting.
Yeah. I feel like you have to be good at so many different things, not just singing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that I've known a lot of great singers who did not want to do the business side and the social media side and the merch side and the selling yourself side and they loved the singing, but they didn't want to do the rest of it. And I totally get it. Not everybody is like cut out for all the 90% of what you're really doing as a performer.
Yeah.
10% is really just being on stage. It's all the other stuff,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So let's see. I'd love to actually, there's a few questions here. Oh goodness. They're so good too. Okay. First things first, what happens if you feel sick? What do you do?
Oh God. Even the thought of it is like, oh God, terrifying. Thankfully, knocking on wooden things, it happens rarely.
Mm-hmm.
It happens so rarely because I really, really try to take as good a care of myself as possible.
Yeah.
I go into like crazy survival mode of vitamin C and water and steam and silence and all those things,
Mm-hmm.
I can count on 3 fingers the time I've had to cancel a show because of sickness. So I usually just power through if I can. Hold on, siren.
Oh.
And goodbye. So I usually just power through, and then hope I can sleep it off and feel better. But it's a terrifying feeling, especially if you have something coming up. And, as performers, if I don't perform, I don't get paid. It's not like I don't get sick days.
No.
So it's terrifying when a performer gets sick. When you're on Broadway, you get sick days, which is great. There are certain advantages to, having, as we used to call it, a government job. But when you're, independently out there working, you certainly can't miss shows.
Yeah. I feel that. I remember blasting through performances when I was 6 still, and that's not good for your voice too.
I know. I mean, my teacher always says, like, absolutely do not sing under any circumstances if you're hoarse or if you feel this or that. And it's easy for him to say because he's not performing for a living, he's teaching for a living, and his students' vocal health is what he's thinking about. I really try not to, but I mean, sometimes you have to, and it's terrifying because I would never forgive myself if I damaged my voice trying to push through. I mean, it's terrifying. I do think of it all the time, but I just modify shows, or I modify, or I mean, the older I get, I realize, I see the big picture more, and I say my health is more important than any given performance, but there are just certain things that you can't cancel, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And, technology, we're going to kind of veer into another zone.
Okay.
You mentioned technology and that you really love it. Is there anything in particular that you feel like has changed your life as a singer that's related to technology?
Definitely in-ear monitors.
Yeah.
I mean, in-ear monitors have been a game changer because when I'm on stage, I stand in front of the drum kit. Oh. And I sing really, really hard. You know what I mean? And my gigs are long, and then they're full singing for an hour and a half. And I would push so much. I used to push a lot, and I used to be tired, or I used to have moments of, like, vocally where it wasn't right. And I was really screwing with my alignment, and getting the entire band on in-ear monitors. So there's no onstage sound except drums. No amps, no anything. Everybody's and it's amazing. It's a game changer. I mean, I can sing the tiniest pianissimo and the loudest forte, and I can all gauge that with my own instrument. I don't have to contend with anything.
That's awesome.
You know, I can just, like, shut it all out. And they're an absolute game changer for your ears and your voice. So that has been amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really weird to get used to. It's a totally different kind of singing, but it's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. I hadn't actually thought about, like, the scope of how much that changes, and just hearing that makes me think, like, wow, your vocal technique must feel so much better.
So much better. I mean, I just can go, and sometimes on tour I'm going 8-9 shows in a row without a break, and just hammering my chords, you know?
Yeah.
Because if you can't hear, you can rely on your technique only so much. I mean, you do need that kind of touchstone of, you know, it is what you feel, but if it's just a deafening sound all around you, I mean, what you feel only goes so far, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need that connection to your own ear. It's a game changer.
That's cool. That's awesome. Let's see, couple more things here. I'm really curious about your collaborations. Do you feel like there is a thing that is one of the most important things to making a good collaboration?
Good collaboration. I mean, usually, like, the same goals, right? A mutual aesthetic. When, like, for instance, when I've collaborated with Scott for Postmodern Jukebox, you know, all of our collaborations he's let me lead the way. Well, what do you want to do for this? You know, what kind of, he doesn't want to really impose that on me, you know, and I can't speak for anyone else, but with my collaborations with him, he's really open to, if the singer feels confident and comfortable, they're going to make the song great, right? Yeah. So I think that a mutual aesthetic or a mutual goal, you know, I'm trying to think, you know, just kind of it's hard to collaborate with someone who doesn't have as big of a music background sometimes, I think. Oh. I think when people don't have the same references, that's hard, or the same listening background. You know, it would be very hard for me to collaborate with someone who had not devoted time to, like, Black American music, you know, that I don't know what we would have in common to talk about or to collaborate on, you know. It's a hugely important part of my training, you know, and so I think that a mutual sense of curiosity and knowledge, you know, you typically are drawn to people that have a similar level are on a similar level as you, you know, musically.
Yeah, for sure. I just have to say, Dream On was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
It was amazing.
Thank you. I don't know why we raised the key a fifth. That was... I'd have kept it in the original key, probably, Scott.
Sing with me, sing for the years, sing for the laughter, sing for the tears. Sing with me just for today. Maybe tomorrow the good Lord take you away.
Are there any current projects that you want to talk a little bit about, or, you know, pepper us with like a little taste of, or tell us to go buy when they're released?
Oh, there's my other dog.
Hello.
Lulu, come here.
Lulu.
Oh, Luther.
Luther.
We are releasing a bunch. We did a lot of recording and footage when we were in the studio last year in Memphis. So we're going to release some acoustic tracks from the studio that we've never released before. We're going to release 5 classic Memphis covers that we haven't released before.
Ooh.
And then we're going back in the studio in July to make a Christmas record.
Oh, thank you for telling me about that.
Christmas music is my favorite.
I love Christmas music.
Hence the Christmas tree that's still in your house.
Yes. I'm going to make it probably an annual tree this year. So decorate it with various things for various seasons. I really love Christmas. And on our channel, we do a lot of Christmas music at Christmas time. Even though not everyone loves Christmas music, I feel like it is so great. So we do it. So
I love it. I love it. Yeah, you know, and you have to record a Christmas album in the summer for it to be ready. So we're already kind of prepping for that. And so we're recording that in July, and it's all going to be a part of this whole Memphis project. So it's going to be a companion piece to my last record.
Nice.
And it'll have all those classic elements, and it's going to be recorded to tape, and it's going to be horns and choirs and strings and all the delicious Memphis kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And I'm just kind of going to continue making videos and doing online shows and just keep going forward. You know, I'm like a worker bee. I just keep making stuff.
Yeah. Yes. That's a great description. You just keep going.
Yeah. I just keep going. I just keep making stuff. I get up and just keep singing, keep making stuff. And it's not about, you know, it's not about one magical thing coming along and being the fix or the silver bullet or the one thing that's going to push it over. You know, I think that it's just about a lifetime or a career full of good work, you know, at least for me. You know, I've given up the idea that someday something's just going to make me famous. You know, that was kind of my desire in my 20s, but I think now it's really like, I would hope that someone finds what I do and say, wow, she just keeps doing good work. You know, she's consistently herself.
That's a great compliment. And I see that. So it seems like you're really achieving that.
Well, thank you.
Just a couple last questions before some patron questions.
Yes.
I want to know, what's your favorite venue that you've ever sung in?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. The Hollywood Bowl was probably like the highlight that I've ever gotten to sing. I've gotten to sing there twice. Mm-hmm. I love the Hamilton in DC. I love the Dakota in Minneapolis. I love the MIM in Phoenix. I love Yoshi's in Oakland. I mean, I love these places for different reasons, you know, and I love singing. And I love singing in Europe. I mean, God, I could just go on and on and on about touring in Europe and how incredible it is. And I've gotten to sing in symphony houses with orchestras all over the world. And I'm so lucky. Like every place I go, I just find these amazing places that I get to sing. So too many to list, really. But I have a few favorites in America. I have a few favorites in Europe, and I always can't wait to see those on the list of dates. You know.
That's awesome. Yes. And last question from me, kind of a twofold question.
Okay.
What is the best and worst thing? Oh, hi.
Oh, there's my husband. Husband sighting.
Amazing producer and instrumentalist sighting. What is the best and worst thing about your profession? I know it's hard to pick this one, but yeah.
The best part is that, every day you can wake up in a new city and with a new audience of people. And that is so magical,
Mm-hmm.
Do you go bye, sweetie?
I'm leaving.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Let me start that over. The best part is waking up in a new city and getting to see a new audience of people and share in that experience. And there's nothing like a shared live music experience.
Yeah.
I think the worst part is the constant onslaught of rejection and, missed opportunities and disappointments. There's so many disappointments that come with this life.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are self-imposed. Most of them are self-imposed. It's the constant comparing with other people and feeling like you're inadequate. Yeah. And I think it's baked into being an artist, unfortunately. The older I get, the better I get at it, for sure. But I think that constant kind of having to, there doesn't get to a point, where all of a sudden you've proved it and you've done all the things. There's always more to do and there's more to learn and there's more to, you have to get up and still make more creative choices the next day, So I don't know. Yeah, I think those are probably the upside and the downside of this business.
Oh, that felt like very sweet and authentic, just like you. And thank you. I have a few questions here from some patrons now. So let's see. The first one is from Kirby. And he said, "Hi, Morgan."
Hold on one second.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Okay.
All right. So this first one is from Kirby. And he said, "Hi, Morgan. While growing up, were there any singers that you admired and or inspired you to become a professional singer? And as a songwriter, what was your most memorable song that you have written for yourself and or for someone special?"
Hi, Kirby. Are these patron questions?
Yeah.
I love my patrons. Oh my gosh. Patreon is the best. So who inspires me as a singer? There are so many. Who inspires me as a singer? They inspire me for different reasons. Like for just purely the voice, it's Aretha, 100% Aretha. For the just absolute soul connection, it's Nina Simone. For melody, it's Ella Fitzgerald is like who I go to if I need to learn a song or if I need to be reminded of any part of the standard repertoire, it's Ella. For tone, it's Nancy Wilson. For songwriting, I'm so inspired by Joni Mitchell and Paul Simon. I love on the melancholy or on the heartstring side, it's Donny Hathaway. So there's so many people that inspire me for different reasons, I love on the songwriting side, I'm very inspired by Prince. And on the second part of that question, I think the song I'm proudest of is Say the Words off my first album. And I wanted to write a big soul ballad and I had never done anything like that. And I wanted a song that, that Aretha Franklin would sing or, that Otis Redding would want to cover or something like that. And I sing that every gig still, and I still feel really proud of that song.
Open the pages where I've been erased. Don't make me guess by the look on your face. Open your heart, just let me see. There ain't no place for me. Won't you say the words?
Here. So this is from Ruben. And he said, being the love child of Prince and Bonnie Raitt. So I think, you'd
yes.
That. Uh-huh. Which of your favorite songs by them? And now this gets kind of like has a little wink to it. So which of your favorite songs by them will make us go crazy, gently weep, or at least give us something to talk about if it can't make us love them instantly?
Very cute, Ruben. I mean, obviously I'm partial to Call My Name, which is a Prince song. And, Prince gave me his permission to record and release that song before he passed away. And so like, it's such a gift to me. So I feel like it's funny, before he passed, I was kind of always waiting for the phone to ring, because throughout time, Prince would pick people that he would kind of, anoint, and ask them to collaborate or ask them to come on tour. And I really was like, any minute now he's going to call, I love How Come You Don't Call Me. I love The Beautiful Ones. On the Bonnie side, Bonnie is such an inspiration to me for her craftsmanship and her showmanship. Like, seeing Bonnie Raitt was one of the sexiest, coolest things I've ever seen on stage, because she's a killer guitar player. She didn't have her first hit until she was in her 40s. So she's not like she's always been in the business and she's always been doing amazing work. And she's just kind of become a legend from doing great work over many, many decades. And she plays her ass off. She sings her ass off. And I just think she's so authentic and just amazing. What a voice. And I love a few of her songs, but what I love more is the collective who Bonnie is,
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, Brett wants to know, what are your favorite ways to find new ways to experiment with what your voice can do? I love that question.
Luther, come here. Come here. He's eating cat food. Come here. Come here, little Luther. He's going to sit on my lap. Okay. Hi, Brett. This is Luther.
Hi, Luther.
What are my ways to find new ways to experiment with my voice? I mean, I'm always challenging myself by learning so much music. I learn so much music every week. I do a different set of music on stage every single week. So I'm always learning, and then I'll do different symphony shows and stuff that are completely new sets of music. So I'm always learning a ton of music at once.
Yeah.
The full album covers are a huge challenge to me, to try to step inside what a band or an artist did with their whole album. Like, what does it feel like to just do exactly what they did in those keys, in those tempos, step inside, like, wear somebody else's clothing. Yeah. I think that's a real challenge, to still be myself, but still honor their songs. I think that's the biggest challenge of doing any covers, is how do I honor this artist and this writer while still being myself? And it's an honor, it's an honor to cover other people's music.
Yeah. I really love what you did with Grace Jeff Buckley.
Thank you. So. That's one of my Desert Island albums.
Yeah.
I love that album so much. And he's incredible. Jeff Buckley is amazing. So yeah, I'm due for another full album cover. I don't know what it's going to be.
Ooh.
I don't know. If anybody has any ideas.
I know. I'm sure they're our fans like to comment on a lot of things. So I'm sure.
Oh, good.
We'll get some awesome comments for you. Maybe.
Okay, good. Yes. Send me some ideas.
That'd be awesome. Okay. Last question here.
Yes.
From our patrons. David wants to know, besides just enjoying the music, postmodern jukebox videos have been a great way for me to discover new singers and other performers that are featured within the group. Is there a particular collaboration that stands out for you, or any insight into how those collaborations came together that you can share?
Just with PMJ, you mean?
Yeah, and you kind of talked about that a little bit with Scott already, but would you like to add anything to it?
Well, Scott's been doing this a long time, so I don't know how he finds the different singers. Sometimes they're recommended from other singers, us singers have to stick together. So we'll say, who you should get is so-and-so and so-and-so. And, and I've made lifelong friendships with those collaborations. I mean, Ariana Savalas is one of my dearest friends, and so many great friendships have come out of those collaborations. Awesome. For me, we have the same agent. So we actually met because our mutual agent was like, you guys should meet. And initially when I, heard about what he was doing, I was like, it doesn't really sound like it's up my alley, because, I don't know if I just want to, it sounds kind of gimmicky, I didn't really know much about it. Mm-hmm. But then when I met with Scott, and he was so like, no, I want it to be you. I want it to feel like it totally is you. Then I felt comfortable, like he wanted it to really reflect every single singer differently, which is awesome. And so, they're very collaborative. People all the time ask me, they think that's my band. They think that that's who I travel with. And it's just a collective of people that changes every single gig, every single video.
Mm-hmm.
It's a few of the same faces reappear, but, I haven't toured with them in 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always an ever-changing group, collective of musicians, which is really cool. But so I'm so glad people find me there and enjoy them. And I mean, I like to refer to different things like a gateway drug, and certain music is a gateway drug to other music. And
mm-hmm.
I hope if there's anything that you like in any of those videos that you'll go back to the source material, I mean, that's what I always love to do. And how deeply there's just so much great music to hear in all of those genres that are represented.
Yes, 100%. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Before we totally wrap up,
yes,
tell people how they can find you, how they can find your music, how they can support you, where they can buy your albums, all of this good stuff. And if there's anything else you want to plug, now is the time to do it.
Okay, yes, of course. Well, you can find me on my, Eunice, come here. Oh, my dogs take this opportunity to wreak havoc on the office. You can find me on my website, morganjamesonline.com. You can find me on my social media, Facebook, Morgan James Online. My Instagram is Morgan A. James. My YouTube channel is Morgan James Online. I'm on all streaming and all of that. You can buy all my physical merch on my website. Where else can you? Oh, Patreon. I have a Patreon, Morgan James Online. I love, love, love my patrons. Yeah. They make my projects possible. Where else? If you're interested in seeing a voice lesson of mine, my teacher, Derek, who I spoke about, has a new platform called Vocal Power Presents. And he's basically doing these incredible full lesson multicam experiences that you can tune in either to a live lesson or watch one that's been edited with interviews. And he does all these seminars on vocal health and everything. So
cool.
If you're interested in vocal technique and health, I highly recommend it. It's really, really cool. Mm-hmm. So I'm featured on that platform as well. So I'm too many places, in fact.
I'm definitely going to check out that lesson. I'm excited.
Yes, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, really cool. Well, thank you so, so very much.
This was so fun. Thank you for having me. And thank you for the wonderful tea and for the wonderful conversation.
You're welcome. And I'm sure we're going to see much more of your performances on the channel too. So thank you again for being so inspiring and for talking with us. You're just a really wonderful person.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a real treat.
Thanks. Well, I guess that wraps us up. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye, everybody.